3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone. I don't normally do medleys, but there's going to have to be a couple tonight. We'll not get it all in. Are the stars out tonight? I don't know if it's cloudy or bright, 'cause I only have eyes for you, dear. The moon may be high, but I can't see a thing in the sky, and I only have eyes for you. I don't know if we're in a garden or on a crowded avenue. You are here, so am I. Maybe millions of people go by, but they all disappear from view, and I only have eyes for you. Every kiss, every hug seem to act just like a drug. You're getting to be a habit with me. Let me stay in your arms, I'm addicted to your charms. You're getting to be a habit with me. I used to think that love was something that I could take or leave alone, but now I just can't do without my supply. I need you for my own. Oh, I can't break away, I must have you every day, as regularly as coffee or tea. You got me in your clutches and I can't get free. You're getting to be a habit with me. I had the craziest dream last night. Yes, I did. I never dreamt it could be, yet there you were in love with me. I felt your lips close to mine, so I kissed them and you didn't mind it at all. When I'm awake, such a break never happens. How long can a guy go on dreaming? If there's a chance that you'll say, then please say you do, my baby. Say it and make my craziest dreams come true. There will be other starry nights like this, and I'll be standing here with someone new. There will be other songs to sing, another fall, another spring, but there will never be another you. There will be other lips that I may kiss, but they won't thrill me like yours used to do. I may dream a million dreams, but how can they come true if there will never ever be another you? Nick that ending from Chet Baker, as I'm sure you spotted. Harry Warren. More hits than Irving Berlin and Cole Porter and George Gershwin. More hits, but who knows who Harry Warren is? Didn't have the same kind of brand. Worked only for the movies. I think all of this makes a difference. He also had a different kind of personality, which we'll get into a little bit later. But in the meantime, 4 Harry Warren tunes, big old tunes straight off the bat. just to get us rolling. He was born son of Italian immigrants. He has a very posh Italian name, which I have written it down. It's Salvatore Guan. No, I can't even say it. There you go. He's named to the rest of us Harry Warren. He loved church music. He grew up as an altar boy, and was a huge fan of all of that stuff. He is a self-taught musician. Taught himself the harmonica and the piano. He was never a great piano player, but you would never know that from the sophistication and the fluidity of his songs. He, like George Gershwin and like Jimmy Van Heusen, he started in the music business as a song plugger. But unlike those two, he wasn't a very good one. One, he wasn't a very good piano player. And two, by his own admission, he didn't have the same relaxed bonhomie, the effervescent, outgoing, friendly thing that the most successful song pluggers had. He was clearly an introvert in an extrovert's world. But he did his best, and he graduated from song plugging to songwriting. And in the mid-1920s, he had a couple of hits. I think his first hit was Rose of Rio Grande, which is still played by some traditional jazz groups these days. But in the mid-1920s, he also had a hit with this tune, which started off a run of songs that Harry was involved with, involving places he'd never been to. This one's about Pasadena, and the one I'm going to sing next is about Nagasaki. And on it will go through his career. Places people have never been to. Apparently George Gershwin had never been to Swanee. Who would know? And then when he did visit it, he was a bit disappointed. Anyway, 1924, we have a song called Home in Pasadena, which some of us might remember because it was revived in 1961 by this sort of 20s revival band called the Temperance Seven. And it goes like this. Home in Pasadena, where the grass is greener, where honeybees hum melodies and orange trees scent the breeze. I wanna be a home sweet home, there I'll settle down beneath the palms in someone's arms in Pasadena town. Can I interrupt with a little personal anecdote? My first ever jazz group was the Big House Jazz Orchestra. It was formed by Gareth Jenkins. Shout out to Gareth Jenkins. I know he isn't watching, but someone might know him. He started the Big House Jazz Orchestra. I was 13 years old. I was playing in the local traditional group in school. And I got in as a rhythm guitarist in the Big House Jazz Orchestra. And my dad used to run me to rehearsals and then run me to gigs. And then he started getting the guys some gigs himself. And before I know it, my dad is the lead singer in the Big House Jazz Orchestra with a megaphone and the whole bit, singing Home in Pasadena in that slightly fey crooner way, you know. So there you go. That was a little flashback of a memory. I don't know how I felt about it. I didn't mind, actually. I didn't mind. It was good fun. Anyway, the other tune that Harry Warren got involved with in the 20s, a place he'd never been to. He was writing songs with Mort Dixon by this point, and Mort Dixon obviously thought Nagasaki was just some legendary palace of pleasure. He'd never been to Nagasaki, but he imagined what he thought Nagasaki would be, and it's this. Hot ginger and dynamite, there's nothing but that at night. Back in Nagasaki where the failed chickabaki and the women wicky wacky woo. The way they can entertain would hurry a hurricane back in Nagasaki, where the fellas chew tobacco and the women wicky wacky woo. In Fujiyama, you get a mama, and then your troubles increase. In some pagoda, she orders soda, earthshake milkshakes, 10 cents a piece. They kissy and huggy nice, oh bajingo, it's worth the price. Back in Nagasaki, where the fellas chew tobacco and the women wicky wacky woo. I pulled a boner and got it up at high speed. I got dramatics and then sciatics, halitosis, that's guaranteed. You just have to act your age, where end up in the cage back in Nagasaki, where the fellas chew tobacco and the women wicky wacky woo. I've never met a woman who wicky wacky wooed. Did you get that? Sorry, I probably made a mess of that last one. With Sweet Kimono, I pulled a boner. I kept it up at high speed. I got dramatics and then sciatics, halitosis, that's guaranteed. It sounds like a hell of a place, Nagasaki. Now, some of you might know this from... Nat Ganella had a hit with it in 1935, even though it was originated in 1928. And they did it at twice that speed. And it made even less sense of an already nonsensical song. It was sort of, it was a kind of hot ginger and dynamite. There's nothing but that at night. Back in Nagasaki where the fellas chew backy and the women wacky wacky woo. It was that. Okay, so that's enough of that. Now, he was having hits in the 1920s, clearly. And Harry Warren was invited to Hollywood. He was New York born and bred. He didn't really think anything of Hollywood. He wanted to stay in New York and get on with the business of being a Broadway composer. But he was tempted out to, get this, to write songs for the Rodgers and Hart musical Spring is Here in 1929. Now, you're already asking yourself, why would Harry Warren be asked to write songs for a Rodgers and Hart musical? And that's what Harry thought. You've got the Rodgers and Hart songs, why do you need these? And of course, the whole thing was about the machinations of the studio system. What the studio wanted was to get a portion of the publishing. They couldn't get a portion of the Rodgers and Hart publishing because it was already published, but they could get a portion of any new songs that was created for the movie version of the musical. And this was just the first example of many examples of the way Hollywood treated music that was pretty alienating to Harry. I mean, he went along with it. He went and did it, but he didn't see the point. And he also, there were anecdotes of him watching directors deal with the musical numbers, and he'd say, wait a minute, the performers are getting the words wrong. And the director would say, look, no one knows what the real words are anyway, which was not a good thing to say to a songwriter. So this sort of thing was, with the publishing and the lack of care with the actual material, it didn't endear Hollywood to Harry at all. And he couldn't wait to get back to New York, where he carried on having hits on Broadway. He was associating himself these days in this, I'm talking about 1930 now, he was associating with Billy Rose, who was a legendary producer, promoter, general Broadway hustler, had enormous energy, got things done, but there was a price to pay. He would have an idea for a song. How about this one? Would you like to take a walk? Would you like to write a song called You'd Like to Take a Walk? Would you like to take a walk? Ooh, do you think it's gonna rain? Yes, we'll write a song called that. And they did. Mort Dixon and Harry Warren wrote a song called that, and Billy Rose got a third of the publishing just for thinking of the song. Another tune that he Cheerful Little Earful. There's a cheerful little earful, gosh I miss it, something fearful, and the cheerful little earful is the well-known I love you. That's a Harry Warren song he wrote with Ira Gershwin and Billy Rose, according to the publishing. Another one that Billy Rose came up with was, why don't you write a song called I Found $1 Million Baby in a 5 and 10 cent store, which is a good idea for a song. And Harry Warren and Mort Dixon wrote an absolute gem of a song that they shared a third of the publishing with Billy Rose. And it's this one. It was a lucky April shower. It was the most convenient door. I found $1 million baby in the 5 and 10 cent store. The rain continued for an hour. I hung around for 3 or 4. Around $1 million baby in the 5 and 10 cent store. She was selling china, and when she made those eyes, I kept buying china until the crowd got wise. Incidentally, if you should run into a shower, just step inside my cottage door and meet $1 million baby from the 5 and 10 cent store. A little gem, I'm sure you'll agree. Next hit in 1931. He was really happening in Harry Warren was really happening in New York. He contributed several songs to a show called The Laugh Parade. And for a 1931 song, again, Mort Dixon wrote the lyric. This is remarkably sophisticated. It sort of survived in the standard repertoire because Miles Davis recorded it in 1956, something like that, and Freddie Hubbard recorded it in 1963, and then Ahmad Jamal, and the thing has stayed within the jazz cover repertoire. And I must admit, I was surprised when I came to this that it was such an early piece, 1931, because of the way the harmony works. It's absolutely gorgeous. So it's a tune called You're My Everything Underneath the Sun. You're my everything rolled up into one. You're my only dream, my only real reality. You're my idea of a perfect personality. You're my everything, everything I need. You're the song I sing and the book I read. You're a way beyond belief, and just to make it brief, you're my winter, summer, spring, my everything. You're my everything, everything I need. You're the song I sing and the book I read. You're a way beyond belief, and just to make it brief, you're my winter, summer, spring, my everything. sorry, I lingered on that one a little longer than some of the others because I've actually just learned it. Isn't it lovely? 1931. Goodness me. Right, well, why would he leave New York? It's all happening for him. He's having hits. And, of course, Hollywood notice. And they invite Harry back to Hollywood to contribute to what was described to him as a high-budget movie musical. Now, Harry was surprised to hear this because the last time he was in Hollywood, he thought it was a bit of a dying town. The whole boom that had happened after the talkies had already died down and studios were letting staff go. And he was thinking, movie musical? Really? Does anyone care? And that movie musical he went back to contribute to was something called 42nd Street. And he was invited to write songs with Al Dubin, who had already hit pay dirt by writing Tiptoe Through the Tulips. And so they just cracked on. They just wrote some songs because this was the height of the Depression. And maybe someone at Warner Brothers thought, this is how we're going to cheer up a nation, as we're going to make daft movie musicals. And Warren and Dubin were a big part of that, as was a choreographer and fantasist called Busby Berkley. And it was all part of it. So 42nd Street, they came up with these kinds of things. It was a backstage musical, like nearly all of them, you know. They were putting on a show, and this show was, this little part of the show was set on a train, and we have some honeymooners who were going to Buffalo, another place that neither Dubin nor Warren had ever been. But they were writing a song about honeymooners trying to get to Buffalo. And I have to say, this contains my favourite opening couplet from any song ever written. Let me just get my key, and then you'll see what I mean. You go home and get your panties, I'll go home and get my scanties, and away we'll go. Ooh, shuffle after shuffle, shuffle after Buffalo. To Niagara in a sleeper, there's no honeymoon that's cheaper, and the train goes slow. Ooh, off we're gonna shuffle, shuffle after Buffalo. Someday the stork may pay a visit and leave a little souvenir, just a little cute, what is it? But we'll discuss that later, dear. For a little silver quarter, we can have the Pullman porter turn the lights down low. Ooh, shuffle after Buffalo. And then elsewhere in the carriage, the showbiz carriage, are two ladies who've been around the block a little bit. And one of them is Ginger Rogers. And they sing this. Matrimony is baloney, she'll be wanting alimony in a year or so. Ooh, still they go and shuffle, shuffle after Buffalo. When she knows as much as we do, she'll be on her way to Reno while he still has dough. Ooh, she'll give him the shuffle when they're back from Buffalo. Okay, you get the picture. It's a little bit naughty, it's a little bit irreverent, but it's daft and it's uplifting. In the heart of little old New York, you'll find a thoroughfare. That's the part of old little old New York runs into Times Square. A crazy quilt that Wall Street Jack built. If you've got a little time to spare, I'd like to take you there. Come and meet those dancing feet. On the avenue I'm taking you to 42nd Street. Hear the beat of dancing feet. It's the song I love, the melody of 42nd Street. Little nifties from the 50s ladies, innocent and sweet. Sexy ladies from the 80s who are indiscreet. They're side by side, they're glorified on the avenue with the 42nd Street. From the 50s, innocent and sweet. Sexy ladies from the 80s who were indiscreet. They're side by side, they're glorified. It's a rhapsody of laughter and tears. Naughty, haughty, bawdy, gaudy, 42nd Street. Okay, so you get the idea. If you don't know those Busby Berkley musicals, they are naughty and gaudy and bawdy. And particularly Gold Diggers of 1933, these were pre-Hays Code. So there was a real kind of naughty sense to them, and they remain naughty even these days. That was the big hit was Gold Diggers of 1933. That was the one that really set the tone, and there's an interesting contrast with this movie, because on the one hand you've got the usual scantily clad ladies parading around in their kaleidoscopic fashion. You know, it's not much dancing goes on actually. There's quite a lot of parading goes on. Holding unlikely props like enormous coins, and then shot from above to create these sort of you've seen all that stuff, and it's all designed to just cheer everybody up. It's fantastical. The whole thing has got the things that, because they're backstage musicals, they start off being kind of a number in a show on a stage, and they end up disappearing into this fantasy land of Busby Berkley world, which is clearly impossible to achieve on a stage, but except a Hollywood soundstage. So that was standard, and this is the kind of number that might go. It went on forever. They go on for 8-9 minutes. It used to drive Harry Warren mad actually, because they'd repeat the song so many times that even he got sick of it. So a tune like this: we're in the money, we're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along. We're in the money, the skies are sunny. Old man depression, you done us wrong. We never seen a headline for the breadline today. And when we see the landlord, we can look that guy right in the eye. We're in the money, come on my honey. Let's spend it, lend it, send it rolling along. You never seen a headline about a breadline today. And when we see the landlord, we can look that guy right in the eye. We're in the money, come on my honey. Let's spend it, lend it, send it rolling along. Clearly designed to cheer up a nation in the middle of a depression. And it did a fantastic job. And yet elsewhere in Gold Diggers of 1933, you've got this amazing piece of work sung by Joan Blondell from the point of view of a woman who recognizes that the men who went to war and came back, they came back different. They came back altered, and they came back to a country that wasn't looking after them. And this is set in the movie with great sensitivity and great drama by Busby Berkley. I mean, he's often dismissed as a slightly kind of lewd fantasist, but this shows that he was connected with another side of life too, and the song itself is quite something. This is a tune called "Remember My Forgotten Man." Remember my forgotten man. You put a rifle in his hand. You sent him far away. You shouted hip hooray. But look at him today. Remember my forgotten man. You had him cultivate the land. He walked behind a plow. The sweat fell from his brow. But look at him right now. And once he used to love me. I was happy then. He used to take care of me. Won't you bring him back again? 'Cause ever since the world began, a woman's got to have a man. Forgetting him, you see, means you're forgetting me. Like my forgotten man. Now I find that quite surprising. You think you've got a handle on the Warren Dubin Busby Berkley thing, and then that's something like that comes along in the middle of the movie, and it pulls the rug a bit. However, that's of course not what they're remembered for. Busby Berkley's endless parade of ladies in their scanties, it seems to me expresses a complex chauvinistic idolatry, along with a rather more straightforward lechery. But nothing quite compares with what they came up with, Dubin and Warren and Busby Berkley, for an Eddie Cantor movie from 1933 called Roman Scandals. Now, we're all reasonably familiar, I think, probably with the idea of that song "Keep Young and Beautiful," because it seems to crop up every now and again, every generation or so. It comes up, and it's usually, of course, used terribly ironically. In fact, Annie Lennox has just recorded it in the last few years, and it's all done with great irony and a raised eyebrow. But it's well worth going back to, I think, because what we have here is if you think that the sort of the patronising, chauvinistic thing couldn't get any wronger, then I will humbly direct you to YouTube to witness the original cinematic setting of "Keep Young and Beautiful," in which Eddie Cantor delivers the song in blackface while disguising himself as a slave in a lady's steam house. It's a whole different level of wrong. And while we're going along with a different level of wrong, I'm still going to sing it for you because it's an earworm that you won't be able to shift. Yes, you're going to be exposing yourself to an hour and a half or so of Harry Warren, beautiful Harry Warren music today. This is the one that you won't be able to shift. I promise you. What's cute about a little cutie? It's her beauty, not brains. Old Father Time will never harm you if your charm still remains. After you grow old, baby, you don't have to be a cold baby. Keep young and beautiful. It's your duty to be beautiful. Keep young and beautiful if you want to be loved. Don't fail to do your stuff with a little powder and a puff. Keep young and beautiful if you want to be loved. If you're wise, exercise all your fat off. Take it off of here, off of there. If you're seen anywhere with your hat off, keep a Marcel waving your hair. Take care of all those charms, and you'll always be in someone's arms. Keep young and beautiful if you want to be loved. Be sure to get your man, wrap your body in a cold up tan. Keep young and beautiful if you want to be loved. You'll always have your way if he likes you in a negligee. Keep young and beautiful if you want to be loved. Oh, a slim little waist is a pleasure, and a trim little limb is divine. Oh, a sly little eye is a treasure, it'll get him drunker than wine. You'll drive him half insane in a bathing suit of cellophane. Keep young and beautiful if you want to be loved. Can you take any more? Just 2 more. Each wrinkle in your skin, rub it out and rub a dimple in. Keep young and beautiful if you want to be loved. Get him to hold you tight, let him get a whiff of Christmas night. Keep young and beautiful if you want to be loved. If you want to be loved. Doesn't need a coda, does it? I'm sorry. There we are. Keep young and beautiful. By the way, it's probably at this point I should mention that we have a Dougal cam.
I just hit it accidentally.
You've hit Dougal cam accidentally.
In the middle of your song.
For those of you who've joined us before, Dougal is our dog, our Schnauzer poodle. Some people call them schnoodles, we don't. Who was responsible for knocking over cameras in earlier streaming, live streamy things. But now he seems to have settled himself down, and he's thoroughly enjoying the inappropriate Warren and Dubin songs from the 30s, aren't you? Yes, he is. Okay, lovely. Right. Okay. Well, I could. The thing is, I have a huge soft spot for all those Warren and Dubin 30s tunes, and I could easily do 2 hours worth of the stuff. But Harry had a bigger old career than that. So we're gonna, I think, probably do 2 or 3 more from the 30s, from the Warner Brothers musicals, and we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll deal with the rest of it. Here's a tune from 20 Million Sweethearts from 1934. You may not be an angel, 'cause angels are so few, but until the day that one comes along, I'll string along with you. I'm looking for an angel to sing my love song to, and until the day that one comes along, I'll string along with you. For every little fault you do have, say I've got 3 or 4. The human little faults you do have just make me love you more. You may not be an angel, but still I'm sure you'll do. So until the day that one comes along, I'll string along with you. We should mention that actually that most of the male lead in most of these Warner Brothers, Busby Berkley, Warren Dubin musicals was Dick Powell. Now, I don't think his shtick has survived terribly well. sorry if you're all Dick Powell fans. I find him a strangely charmless performer. He's quite a good singer. He's quite a good tenor singer, but he's, maybe that's just the leading men of the 30s were just a little bit, stiff and lacking in a certain kind of je ne sais quoi. I don't know. But he did sing this one from Gold Diggers of 1937, which I rather like. Baby, what I couldn't do with plenty of money and you, in spite of the worry that money brings, just a little filthy lucre buys a lot of things, and I could take you to places you'd like to go. But outside of that, I've no need for dough. It's the root of all evil, of strife and upheaval. But I'm certain, honey, that life could be sunny with plenty of money and you. Now, we've got the Broadway bounce there, boom, chick, the umpire thing. I always wondered whether this should be, this could be swung down a notch or two. Baby, what I couldn't do with plenty of money and you, in spite of the worry that money brings, a little filthy lucre buys a lot of things, and I could take you to places you'd like to go. 'Cause outside of that, I've no need to dough. Root of all evil, in spite of upheaval. But I'm certain, honey, that life could be sunny with plenty of money and you. And that's a kind of truism, isn't it? We can get away with that. Bit of money, bit of love. But I think the song that encapsulates the entire era of the Warner Brothers, Busby Berkley, Warren Dubin period is the song from Gold Diggers of 1935. Won the Oscar in 1936 award ceremony, and it's miraculous. In the movie, it's like a play within itself. It's a whole kind of scenario, and I always found it incredibly vivid, that idea of Broadway babies going out, having a night out, and not coming back until the milkman is on his round. Isn't that exotic? Isn't that grown up? Does anybody do that? I'm in bed by 10:15. Not tonight. Well, no. It's this one. Come on along and listen to the lullaby of Broadway, the hip hooray and ballyhoo, the lullaby of Broadway, the rumble of a subway train, the rattle of a taxi, the daffodils who entertain, and Angelos and Maxis. Oh, the Broadway baby says goodnight. It's early in the morning. Manhattan babies don't sleep tight until the dawn. Good night, baby. Good night. The milkman's on his way. Sleep tight, baby, sleep tight, let's call it a day. Band begins to go to town, everybody goes crazy. You rock-a-bye your baby down, everything gets hazy. Hush-a-bye, I'll buy you this and that. You hear your daddy saying, my baby goes home to her flat to sleep all day. Good night, baby. Good night. The milkman's on his way. Sleep tight, baby. Sleep tight. Let's call it a day. Listen to the lullaby of old Broadway. I'm sorry, I got a little Michael Feinstein there at the end. But it's pretty hard not to when you're singing Lullaby of Bleeding Broadway. Thanks so much. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll probably put it on Dougal Cam in the meantime. And we'll just go and get a little cold something or other and be back for Harry Warren in the 1940s. Thanks so much. What do you think of it so far? We're in the money.
Don't think he's that bothered.
Right then.
Part 2. Oh, that's all a bit close to the camera, Google. Oh, he's going up the other end.
Has he changed? We'll change dog cam.
I will. Oh, he's going on the other sofa.
Hello, Diggs.
Luke's a good boy.
When Harry Warren first played this tune to Jack Warner at Warner Brothers, he didn't like it. And Harry thought, what's the matter with him? And then he realised it's because he hadn't sold it to him. And from that point on, he didn't even use himself as a pianist when he was demonstrating songs. He got in a proper professional pianist, and he got in professional singers to do it. That's if his lyricist wasn't a great seller of the song. Because Harry couldn't do that. He didn't do that, as we've already established. He couldn't project in that way. And so he got James Melton to sing it to Jack Warner. And Jack Warner raved about it like he'd never heard it before in his life. The leaves are brown, came tumbling down, remember that September in the rain. The sun went out just like a dying ember that September in the rain. Through every word of love I heard you whisper. The raindrops seem to play a sweet refrain. Though spring is here, to me it's still September. That September in the rain. Harry had snuck it into a 1935 movie, but just as background music. And then it was eventually put into Stars Over Broadway in Melody for You in 1937. Another film, of course, I've had absolutely no experience of whatsoever. Now, his Harry Warren's association with Al Dubin was hitting a bit of a rocky patch. Although Harry they were complete opposites in terms of personality. Al Dubin was a big man with enormous appetites. He was always on the hunt for restaurants and women and the whole bit, drink, drugs. And he was becoming a bit unreliable, and Warner Brothers noticed this. Now, it might be that these days, if they spot, if an employer spots somebody going a little bit off the rails, you'd like to think that they'd sort of reach out to him and help him a little bit. No, all they did was invite Johnny Mercer along to write lyrics alongside Al Dubin, which was a massive humiliation for Al Dubin. The guy had written 25 hits in the last 5 years, and now you've got this upstart from Savannah, Georgia. Now he's co-writing my lyrics. You can just imagine. So, and Harry Warren, saw that as just another example of Hollywood studios' insensitivity to creative musicians, particularly the songwriters. And although they sort of muddle through, collaborating on a movie called The Garden of the Moon, 1938. Al Dubin had enough, and he left Warner Brothers in a fit of pique, leaving Harry Warren alone with Johnny Mercer for a while, and they wrote a couple of absolute doozies, including this from Going Places from 1938. I don't care what the weatherman says. If the weatherman says it's raining, you won't hear me complaining. I'm certain the sun will shine. I don't care where the weather vane points. If the weather vane points to gloomy, you gotta be listening to me when your heart beats next to mine. Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Oh, jeepers creepers, where'd you get those eyes? Gosh, oh, get up, how'd you get so lit up? Gosh, oh, get up, how they hypnotize. Golly gee, when you turn those heaters on, woe is me, I got to put my cheaters on. Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Oh, those weepers, how they hypnotize. Where did you get those eyes? Does that not put joy in your heart? It certainly does mine. I don't know why. Why should that be so joyous? But it just is. Jeepers Creepers, Johnny Mercer. It would be nice to think that Al Dubin went off in a fit of pique, having transformed or helped transform the fortunes of Warner Brothers, and made a great success of himself. Of course, he didn't. He drank himself to death and was dead at age 45. So actually, it's quite a similar story to the Johnny Burke story, if anyone remembers that from the Johnny Mercer, from the Jimmy Van Heusen thing. What is it about these lyricists who overindulge themselves into an early grave? Well, Johnny Mercer didn't. He hung around to write this one from a movie called Hard to Get from 1938. Harry Warren, Johnny Mercer. Must have been a beautiful baby. You must have been a wonderful child when you were only starting to go to kindergarten. I bet you drove the little boys wild. When it comes to winning blue ribbons, I bet you showed the other kids how. I can see it in your eyes when they handed you the prize. I bet you made the cutest bow. Oh, you must have been a beautiful baby, 'cause baby, look at you now. Now, one of the interesting things about that tune is that 20 years later, we're talking 1938 here, so 20 years later, Bobby Darin got a hold of it and put a rock and roll beat to it. So it sounded like this. You must have been a beautiful baby. You must have been a wonderful child. When you were only starting to go to kindergarten, I bet you drove the little boys wild. When came to winning blue ribbons, I bet you showed the other kids how. I could see it in your eyes when they handed you the prize. I bet you made the cutest bow. Oh, you must have been a beautiful baby, 'cause baby, look at you now. Works quite well, doesn't it? That's how versatile these songs are. Now, that would not be the last time. In the mid-1940s, Harry Warren wrote this beautiful, unassuming little swing ballad. I'll tell you what happened to it once we've done it. The more I see you, the more I want you. Somehow this feeling just grows and grows. With every kiss I become more mad about you, more lost without you, and so it goes. Can you imagine how much I want you? The more I see you as years go by, I know the only one for me can only be you. My arms won't free you, my heart won't try. 1945, about 20 years later, Chris Montez got a hold of it. Chris Montez of Hey baby, won't you take a chance? Let's Dance. Chris Let's Dance Montez. I wish I'd checked the key before doing that. And he got a hold of The More I See You and put a rock and roll beat to it. And it was it was a bit like I don't know whether I'll do this all the way through, but it was, The more I see you, the more I want you. Somehow this feeling just grows and grows. With every kiss I become more mad about you, more lost without you, and so it goes. Can you imagine how much I want you? The more I see you as years go by, I know the only one for me can only be you. My arms won't free you, my heart won't dry. Organ solo. Kind of works as well, really, doesn't it? This is versatile stuff. Good old Chris Montez and Bobby Darin. And needless to say, Harry Warren didn't like those versions at all. In fact, he, like most songwriters of his generation, he regarded the encroachment of post-Elvis pop music as a terrible scourge on his profession. It was a downgrading of popular music as far as he was concerned. So anything that had the whiff of that rock and roll about it, he was sort of not really interested. In fact, the other big revival in the 1970s was when Art Garfunkel, of course, recorded "I Only Have Eyes for You," which I always thought was an absolutely beautiful reimagining of the song, which came from 1934. 1975, 40 years later, Harry Warren hated it. I think he just, it was just a kind of default response. Anything that came from, those rock guys. I don't know whether you can call Art Garfunkel one of those rock guys, but you know what I mean. was just, just not what I'm sure he appreciated the royalties. Anyway, he left Warner Brothers. He'd had enough really at the same time as Harry Warren, but I think the arrival of Johnny Mercer made leaving just delayed it a little bit longer, and they had a couple more hits, but in the end he couldn't take it anymore, and he joined Fox, which he thought it was the end of the movie musical, but then he thought it was the end of the movie musical before he even started movie musicals. He joined Fox thinking, right, well, movie musicals are done now, but I might as well write a few more songs. And little did he know that he was going to be involved in yet another phenomenon that was Carmen Miranda. Now, Carmen Miranda, most of you, I'm sure, will know, was a Brazilian performer who sort of showed her midriff, jiggled a little bit, and wore fruit on her head and sang silly songs like I like you very much. I think you're grand. And those silly songs, another silly song she sang was The Girl with the Tutti Frutti Hat. Those silly songs were written by Harry Warren. He had no problem with this stuff. Carmen Miranda was a huge star. By the end of the 1940s, this is something I couldn't believe. At the end of the 1940s, she was the highest paid female in the whole of the United States. And if you check her out now on what she does, you go, right, this and the silly songs, you think that's entertainment? That actually, people like that stuff? It turns out they did. And Harry loved it. He just loved absorbing the whole Latin American idiom and then just getting inside it and writing super commercial things. He had no problem with that. And they had some enormous hits. Actually, we put ourselves through what was that film we put ourselves through? The Gang's All Here from 1943 with Carmen Miranda. We put ourselves through part of it. And in The Gang's All Here, there's a there's a production number called The Girl in the Tutti Frutti Hat, because Carmen is starring in it along with Alice Faye and people like this. And I tell you what, we will never be able to unsee The Girl in the Tutti Frutti Hat. I'm not going to say very much more, but all I'm saying is it involved enormous bananas. So, it's up to you if you want to go and check that out on YouTube. But you have been warned. Great success for Harry, but another maybe slightly more kind of durable association he made in the early 1940s was with the swing band leader Glenn Miller. He made a couple of films with him, Sun Valley Serenade, 1941, and Orchestra Wives in 1942, which purported to be a sort of backstage story of what it is like to be married to a jazz musician. It's all right. It's total fiction, but the score is great, actually. The score is great. I Got a Gal in Kalamazoo, Chattanooga Choo Choo, and these two. Actually, let me play you this one, because this one is a good example of Harry writing specifically for the Glenn Miller Orchestra. I'll just play it. I won't do the lyric. I'll just do the tune. You can hear the guys playing it, can't you? A Serenade in Blue. Beautiful thing. And elsewhere, there was this lovely tune as well. Which we all know, and we all know from we all know from the Etta James version. This is a tune called At Last. And we all know it from the Etta James version, which is a fantastically persuasive and vivid reworking of the song. And the thing is with the Etta James version of At Last is, which was I think early 60s, 61, something like that, it's been taken up by Christina Aguilera and then another couple of generations of American Idol who all do versions of the Etta James version. It's getting further and further away from the source material in the Chinese whispers train. And I had several vocal students who came to me for voice coaching and repertoire and all that kind of stuff. And they'd say, well, let's do At Last. And they'd always sang the Etta James version. And I, being the repertoire pedant that I am, I would always direct them back to source material because the original Harry Warren conception is notably different from where it's ended up these days. This is At Last. At last, my love has come along. My lonely days are over, and life is like a song. At last, the skies above are blue. My heart was wrapped in clover the night I looked at you. I felt a dream to press my cheek to, a dream that I could call my own. I felt a thrill that I could speak to, a thrill that I have never known. You smiled, and then the spell was cast. For here I am in heaven, for you are mine at last. You smiled, and then the spell was cast, and here we are in heaven, for you are mine at last. In the war years, by the way, Harry Warren these days, in the 1940s, is writing with a guy called Mac Gordon, who, while Harry had been writing with Al Dubin at Warner Brothers, Mac Gordon had been writing with Harry Revel at Fox for all those musicals in there, and they got. I suppose these relationships have a natural kind of shelf life. And Harry Revel was moved on, Harry Warren was brought in, and so 1940s it was Warren and Gordon quite a lot of the time. That's a Mac Gordon lyric we just sung there. And in the war years, these songwriters, of course, part of their duty was to write songs that would raise the spirits, and maybe reflect what was going on with people left at home, the people overseas, and the biggest hit they had in the war years was the beautiful tune that I think people in this country will know it as, sung by Vera Lynn, "You'll Never Know." I think it's worth doing sometimes those melodies, the super familiar melodies that are almost taken for granted. But someone had to come up with that. Someone had to devise that to sound so natural and so like it had always existed. And Harry Warren was that guy. You know, he was revered among the arrangers and the composers of the day as a man who had almost a supernatural ability to come up with tune after tune after tune after tune that had this sort of luminous logic about it. And it ain't easy, but there you go. Along with "You'll Never Know" in the war years was this, which is much more under the radar, but I think is as good as a tune, and it's sung in The Gang's All Here by Alice Faye, and again it's a reflection of the woman left behind as the man is abroad at war, and this is her pledge to stay faithful and be true to the lad until he returns. And it's a really beautiful overlooked piece called "No Love, No Nothing." No love, no nothing until my baby comes home. No sir, no nothing as long as baby must roam. I promised him I'd wait for him till even Hades froze. I'm lonesome, heaven knows, but what I said still goes. No love, no nothing, and that's a promise I'll keep. No fun with no one, I'm getting plenty of sleep. My heart's on strike, and though it's like an empty honeycomb, no love, no sir, no nothing till my baby comes home. fun with no one. I'm getting plenty of sleep. My heart's on strike, and oh, it's like an empty honeycomb. No love, no sir, no nothing till my baby comes home. Nothing till my baby comes home. Now, Alice Faye sang that a lot slower in The Gang's All Here, but it works quite nicely, I think, as a medium swinger. Now, he didn't last at Fox very long. Same old trouble, really. Harry tells an anecdote of him and Mac Gordon going into the business manager's office because their royalty statement was a lot lower than they expected. They'd written 4 hits for Orchestra Wives, and where was the money? And the business manager chuckled and said, "Ha ha, you obviously didn't read the small print." And the small print, of course, was something along the lines of, well, we get a chunk of that, and somebody else gets a chunk of this, and then we've got a subsidiary that gets a chunk, and then you're left with, it was just small print divisions. And Harry was so appalled, not so much by the deal is the deal, it was the business manager's attitude. He saw it as so disrespectful, and just a massive game in which the studios just blatantly tried to rip off the songwriters and the musicians as best they could. And it was the songwriters being idiots that meant that it could happen, and therefore they could laugh in their face. Harry Warren hated that and left Fox at the first opportunity. He was completely sick of it. But that's all right, because he went to MGM, who were the biggest makers of movie musicals in the 40s and 50s. And one of the first things he had to do was write a song for Fred Astaire, which is not the worst job in the world. Ziegfeld Follies of 1945. It was a kind of, it was like a review musical. It wasn't a book musical. I don't think there wasn't a story as such that went through. It was just a series of individually directed vignettes. Vincent Minnelli, I think, directed the Fred Astaire section, in which he sang this utterly beautiful Harry Warren song called This Heart of Mine. This heart of mine is doing very well. The world was fine as far as I could tell. And then quite suddenly I saw you, and I dreamed of gay amours. At dawn I wake up singing sentimental overtures. This heart of mine is gaily dancing now. I taste the wine of real romancing now. Somehow this crazy world has taken on a wonderful design. As long as life endures, it's yours, this heart of mine. This heart of mine, gaily dancing now. This heart of mine is real romancing now. Somehow this crazy world has taken on a wonderful design. As long as life endures, it's yours, this heart of mine. It's yours, this heart of mine. Now, I didn't know that song until maybe 3 or 4 years ago when the singer Bridget Baraha came to the Hunter Club where I was the pianist, and she pulled this one out and announced to the audience. She said, "You know, my favourite writer of the American songbook is Harry Warren, and this is one of his." And I didn't know it, and the freshness and the sweetness just overwhelmed me as I was playing it. And I just thought, yeah, he can do this to you again and again. Not the smallest among his achievements is the fact that he wrote two of the greatest train songs ever. I'm going to run them together. You know what they are. The first one is from the Harvey Girls from 1946, Judy Garland. Wow, it had Harry landed on his feet leaving Fox. He was writing for Fred Astaire, he was writing for Gene Kelly, he was writing for Judy Garland. Harvey Girls, great movie. Still a little under the radar, I think, but really, really strong stuff from Harry throughout. And then that train song he also wrote with he wrote with Mac Gordon for the Orchestra Wives. Here we are. We're just going to have a little bit of a woo-woo interlude. Do you hear that whistle down the line? I finger that it's edge number 49. She's the only one that'll sound that way on the adjacent to Baker and the Santa Fe. See the old smoke rising round the bend. I reckon that she knows she's gotta meet a friend. Folks around these parts on the adjacent to Baker and the Santa Fe. Here she comes. Woo, 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 woo. Oh, Jim, you better get that rig. Woo, 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 woo. I got a list of passengers that's pretty big, and they all want lifts. The Browns Hotel, 'cause lots of them been traveling for quite a spell, all the way from Philadelphia on the adjacent to Baker and the Santa Fe. Woo, 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 woo. Woo, 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 woo. Pardon me, boy, is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? Track 29. Boy, you give me a shine. Can you afford to board the Chattanooga choo-choo? I got my fare, but just a trifle to spare. You leave the Pennsylvania station about 3:45. Read a magazine and then you're in Baltimore. The dinner in the diner, nothing could be finer than to have your ham and eggs in Carolina. When you hear the whistle blowing into the bar, then you know the Tennessee is not very far. Shovel all the coal in, gotta keep it rolling. Whoa, whoa, Chattanooga, there you are. There's gonna be a certain party at the station, satin and lace, used to call funny face. She's gonna cry until I tell her that I'll never roam. Oh, Chattanooga choo-choo, won't you choo-choo me home? Woo, woo. Woo, 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 woo. I've never been on a steam train in my life. Who needs to? You got the songs. I think one of the great occupational hazards of being a professional songwriter, particularly in the movie business, but also probably in the Broadway business as well, is that you can put your heart and soul into something, and it gets cut. Here's a song that was cut from a movie called Three Little Girls in Blue from 1945. Luckily, I think Harry managed to get it away somewhere else. Well, he must have done, because I knew it from Chet Baker, and I know a lot of jazz singers have visited this one. This isn't sometimes, this is always. This isn't maybe, this is always. This is love. A real beginning of forever. This isn't just midsummer madness, a passing glow, a moment's gladness. This is love. I knew it from the time we met. You tried a string around my heart. How can I ever forget you? With every kiss I know that this is always. So he got lucky with that one. He didn't get so lucky with this next one, which he always regarded, if anyone pressed him, about his favourite song that he'd written. And the favourite song that he'd written is a song called Spring Isn't Everything, which was cut from a movie from 1948 called Summer Holiday, not to be confused with the Cliff Richard Summer Holiday from 15 years or so later. Summer Holiday was a Mickey Rooney film, and it also starred Walter Houston as one of those grizzled, philosophical, naughty old fellas. It was a kind of reprise, actually, this song of the September song, which Walter Houston had sung in Knickerbocker Holiday. It's a similarly themed thing about old guys being philosophical and reflecting on life and aging. It's definitely, this song is definitely Son of September song, but it's absolutely beautiful, and Harry was especially proud of it. The lyric is gorgeous. Ralph Blaine was proud enough of it to publish it as a poem, in fact. When the song got cut and no one had ever heard of it. It has been dug out by various connoisseurs. Well, I say various, maybe one or two. And I got to know it because I read that Harry was proud of it. I thought, right, well, I better hear it then. And luckily, the Walter Houston version, which was cut from the movie, has been reinstated on the original soundtrack album, which is available to listen to. So that was a real bonus, and it's gorgeous. I'm going to sing for you now. Spring Isn't Everything. Harry Warren's favourite piece of anything he's written. Spring isn't everything, it's true. There's a lot to be said for summer. Summer has beauty too. With the world full out of its shell, you'll be caught in its sunny spell. Oh, spring isn't everything. Spring isn't everything, it's true. There's a lot to be said for autumn. Autumn has beauty too. Though the gently chill with its blow. You'll be caught in its golden glow. Oh, spring isn't everything. There's a lot to be said when winter brings the snow to hide the weather. Don't worry your head with what winter brings. It's only the weather. Spring isn't everything, it's true, though a lot can be said when summer and autumn and winter sing. If you're together, life is a golden ring. Oh, spring isn't everything. Now, Harry Warren went on to write for at least another couple more decades, in obviously in reduced capacity, but he hung in there. He hung in there when a lot of his contemporaries sort of faded away and gave up. In the 1950s, he got involved with Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin. Wrote for a couple of those movies, and then later on he wrote for, I think, 3 Jerry Lewis films when the Martin Lewis partnership fell apart, and in retrospect, it's pretty obvious that he'd kind of hitched his horses to the wrong wagon, trying to write songs for Jerry Lewis, who was trying to be taken seriously as a vocalist and an actor and all that kind of stuff. And of course, he never quite transcended his essential mawkishness. And, it's a shame, but it was probably the only game in town. You know, a lot of Harry's contemporaries by this time had basically stopped. Hoagy Carmichael had given up, in the mid-50s. Just he had the same attitude. If popular music is what's going on now post Elvis, there's no place for me. Harry thought there might still be a place for him in movies, certain movies, and he kept getting invited to write theme tunes and things like this. But really, his golden period is the 30s and the 40s, with perhaps one exception. In 1953, the movie The Caddy, Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin. Now, I don't know when the last time you watched Jerry Lewis doing his shtick, but it's pretty weird. It's pretty. It makes Carmen Miranda look like Laurence Olivier. I just don't see what the appeal is. It's very odd. You can still see what the appeal of Dean Martin is. However, this particular sequence in The Caddy was set where the Dean Martin character was going back to explore his Italian roots. And what the film was going to do, even though Harry Warren had written the songs elsewhere, they were going to use a traditional Italian song for that sequence. And Harry and Jack Brooks, who was writing the lyrics at the time, said, no, we'll give that a go. And what they did, of course, Harry was Italian anyway, and he loved Italian music, is they created something that not only sounded like a traditional Italian song, it also poked fun at Italian traditional songs. It was a marvellous pastiche of Italian traditional song, and here it is. Wrong key. When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore. Bells will ring, ting-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling, and you'll sing Vita Bella. Hearts will play tippy-tippy-tay, like a gay tarantella. When the stars make you drool, just like pasta fazool, that's amore. When you dance down the street, cloud at your feet, you're in love. When you walk in a dream, but you know that you're not dreaming, signore. Scusa me, but you see, back in old Napoli, that's amore. Okay, everybody. When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore. Bells will ring, ting-a-ling-a-ling, like a Vida Bella. Hearts will play tippy-tippy-tay, like a gay tarantella. I don't know what a gay tarantella is. When the stars make you drool, just like pasta fazool, that's amore. When you dance down the street with a cloud at your feet, you're in love. When you walk in a dream, but you know you're not dreaming, signore. Scusa me, but you see, back in old Napoli, that's amore. That's amore. I've never sung that song in my life. Isn't it great? That's amore. It's another one of those Harry's lifting me up songs. Goodness me. Okay, well, I think we're sort of done with Harry. I'm going to do one more instrumental thing. But before I do, thank you so much for joining me this evening and joining my wife. I get into trouble for not making a fuss of my technician and life partner over there, and I'm gonna let her take a bow. Hold on. You're gonna have to put it on the other one here, and I'm gonna swap this over here like that. There she is. Wave.
Hi everyone.
She's brilliant.
Hope you're all well.
She's making it all happen. Thank you very much. Okay. Right, is that in the right place, more or less? It doesn't matter. Yeah, and thanks so much to you guys for joining us. Thank you for Dougal for being such a good sport, and what a showman he is. Let's just have another little look at Dougs. Wow, thank you so much. Obviously, Harry Warren music makes him feel the same way it makes me feel. One of the little postscripts to the Harry Warren story, of course, is it's not a little postscript, it's an enormous postscript that in the late 70s, producer David Merrick decided that he was going to revive 42nd Street and make it into a sort of jukebox musical and use all the Harry Warren, Al Dubin songs from all those other Warner Brothers films of the period and put it together in a sort of extravagant celebration of those frothy 30s magical movies in a Broadway show called 42nd Street. And it's fantastic. If any of you've seen it, I'm sure some of you have. It's a real experience. But true to form, because no one's ever heard of Harry Warren. True to form, if you look at the soundtrack album, which of course I should be holding up at this point, but I don't think I've got a vinyl copy. Is you've got 42nd Street, and across the top you've got David Merrick's 42nd Street, and then underneath you've got choreography and settings by Gower Champion, and then underneath you've got record produced by Thomas Z. Shepard. Nowhere is Harry Warren's name on the front of that cover. Every single song in that show was written by Harry Warren, And the fact that his name isn't on the front cover of the album speaks volumes about how his profile went and his career went over the years. Of course, it's on the back somewhere, but why wasn't it Harry Warren's? It wasn't, it was Irving Berlin's There's No Business Like Show Business. Rodgers and Hammerstein present South Pacific. We all knew about that. And it's all about branding, isn't it? Harry, by nature, as we've already discussed, he wasn't a thrusting kind of guy. He was a shy guy. He liked it. He liked things quiet. He was an introvert in an extrovert business. Now, but he was hip enough to know that there are stories that he was a little bitter about his lack of profile as a songwriter. But no one knows who songwriters are. I do a whole show about Hoagy Carmichael. Now, Hoagy Carmichael was a film actor and a radio star and a recording star, none of which Harry Warren was, and still no one knows which Hoagy Carmichael songs are which. I would do 2 hours of Hoagy Carmichael music and people would say, I had no idea he wrote that. I can't do, of course, because no one cares or knows who writes things, Harry. That's the deal. Now, if you don't like that, you could have hired a publicist to sort of shout about it. Harry Warren wrote all these, but actually deep down, I don't think he really cared that much. He had royalties coming out his ears, and those who know. Harry Warren, we'll never forget him. Okay, so the other little postscript is on Spotify. There's a lovely little album that was made in 1975 called Harry Warren Piano Vignettes, and it's just a guy. Harry obviously had dozens of tunes hanging around, nowhere to put them. So what he did is he just created little piano vignettes for a pianist to play, and they're all just little magical Harry Warren melodies with no words to them, because the time for those kinds of tunes had long gone. And one of his later pieces was the title song to the Deborah Carr, Cary Grant film, An Affair to Remember. Now, Victor Moan sings it, but the lyrics are neither here nor there, really. But the tune is beautiful, and the tune is, if I play it, it's a bit like one of Harry Warren's piano vignettes. So we'll say goodbye with this 1957 melody from An Affair to Remember, called An Affair to Remember. Thanks so much, everybody. I trust you've been jabbed at least once. Look forward to the next one, and look forward to everyone getting together very soon. See you soon. Good night.